Okay, I'm told that you're supposed to wait until somebody comes. So I do see one person here. So as you know, I'm not that good at waiting. Uh-oh, I'll have to deal with that later. Okay. Hi. I hope you are doing well. I cannot see um, who's joined, but at any rate, good evening. I pray you're doing well. I'm doing much better. Um, Nothing that a little prayer couldn't fix. I am going to move forward in my scripture. My scripture is coming from Exodus 23:1. Thou shalt not raise a false report. Put not thine hand with the wicked to be an unrighteous witness. And the reason my scripture is in regards to a report is because we are going to visit the doctored up report that I was given. As those of you who know that's been following, I'm not going to call it an autopsy report because it's not an autopsy report. I have learned through researching that reviewing a comprehensive autopsy report should look a certain way, and that's what this is. It's something educating me on exactly what an autopsy report should look like. And so, as you know, I've been sharing with you guys to educate yourself, educate yourself, educate yourself when it comes to stuff like this. And that's what I've been doing. I've been educating myself, especially when I received these doctored up pieces of paper that was supposed to suggest to me that it was an autopsy report just to send me on my merry way. So, first of all, I am going to just share with you some of the information that I've learned in regards to the autopsy report or the process thereof in regards to the death of an investigation. It says if a crime is suspected, the incident will belong to the investigating law enforcement agency, and the body, together with all these items on or about it, will belong to the medical examiner's office. So the information goes to the investigating law enforcement. They're the ones who deal with, let's see, if a crime is suspected, the incident will belong to the investigating law enforcement agency. And the body, together with all of its items on or about it, will belong to the medical examiner's office. For those of you who know, in regards to my brother's incident, we got calls saying that his body was in one place. The car stopped, almost half a mile down the road, or that's where the individual said that they stopped the vehicle. And we were told by various people in the community that his belongings were almost a half a mile away from him on the opposite side of the median in front of the church. So that's quite a bit of distance. We're talking about nearly a mile of potential crime scene. But if you were with us, which I know a lot of you guys weren't, then you realize that that's not the type of crime scene that we had. That's not what we was given as far as a crime scene. Throughout the photos, it looked as though the crime scene was probably a third of that distance. And so, yeah, so that was a major concern of mine, is that, why didn't you examine the whole crime scene versus taking just a small portion of the crime scene? So, but now we have it. The incident belongs to the investigating law enforcement, and the body and all of its personal belongings and everything was supposed to go to the medical examiner's office. And I did have some concerns about pieces of his article, because my brother Wayne called me and he shared with me that when he went up to see where the incident took place, that there were still articles that was left on the street. And he was, he was somewhat disturbed about it. And so I called and I shared that information with Sergeant Sanders, that there was still articles left on the scene, and if they were to do a thorough investigation, then they would need those articles. So why would you leave them behind and then share with the family that you're doing a thorough investigation? So that was a concern that I had in regards to that. But then it goes on to say the agents will work independently of each other with overlapping goals. The death investigator has certain responsibilities and duties to pursue those responsibilities. The body is exclusively under the custody and control of the death investigator. Until they arrive on scene, no other person can touch, move, or remove the body or those items on or about it. So when the young lady was sharing that they had the opportunity to see up under the torps the body, and they knew exactly what had taken place with the body. They knew that he had a broken arm and, these things. And I believe you go back, stroll back through my Facebook page, you can actually see, because I actually took some of those wonderful little postings that they posted during that time. These are, some of the people that were involved in this incident. I took some of those postings and I posted them on my page, just to draw attention to, how people treated us during that time, during the time that my brother was killed. But needless to say, let's go on. It says, oh, and my whole point in sharing that was to say that that young lady should have never been she shouldn't have never been allowed to look under the torp. Or if it comes back and it was, oh no, I never looked up under the torp, then that just confirms even more so that, yes, darling, you was at the scene of the accident or at the scene of the crime, and you did see the body, because that was the big thing, is that you never saw the body. You didn't know what you hit. And so for you to say, come back now and say that you didn't look under the torp, then that means that you, in fact, had a close-up in person with that situation and you know exactly what happened. And we're going to talk about that in a couple more days, more in details. Then it goes on to say the body is exclusively under custody and control of the death investigator. Until they arrive on scene, no other person can touch, move, or remove the body or those items on or about it. The assessment includes complete photography, documenting wounds and injury or lack thereof, rigor and livor mortis, body position and relationship to the scene and condition of the body due to postmortem interval and environment. If the body has been moved possibly to a remote area, there will be another crime scene at the place the death actually occurred. Okay, so that tells you a little bit about what's, the process of the investigation and how that goes. And I've already shared with you guys, and I have made a call, and I'm pretty sure at this point, my message in regards to the request for a copy of Mr. Butterfield's report should be already circulating, because I'm pretty sure that it was a shock that I even called and requested it. But I did call and request a copy of Mr. Butterfield's autopsy report. And I have here that, let's see, with the death of my brother taking place in March, on March 11th, 2018, and Mr. Butterfield, I don't have his, but I believe it's in July. They gave plenty of time for an autopsy report to be done. As it says here, that 24 hours I'm sorry. We have some wonderful person that's not progressive enough to realize that that's a no-no during this time. So please forgive him. But at any rate, um, it says here 24 hours. Let me see, where did I see it? Autopsies are often performed within 24 to 48 hours of discovering the body, with the full medical, legal, and law enforcement investigating ongoing medical records. I'm sorry, ongoing. Medical records have likely not yet been received or reviewed. So, but in regards to the first 24 to 48 hours, Mr. Butterfield would have had an opportunity to do the autopsy report, especially since the body didn't leave immediately to come to the crime lab. So we're going to see what he had to say in his autopsy report. The other thing is, okay. The other thing is here. It talks about the gross external examination. And with the gross external examination, it tells you that gross external examination, the detailed examination and documentation of the organs and the internal body structure, the toxicology test, and the microscopic examination. And it says the external examination is head to toe and includes measurements of wounds, scars, marks, tattoos, and conditions of the body and structure. I don't believe fairly that we had a lot of conditions of the body, and somebody may argue that, and that's perfectly fine. I do know that we did not get a head to toe, as I shared with you during the last video. It didn't even speak of, for an example, his ankles and his feet. And I know people are like, that's so petty. No, it really isn't. It really isn't when you're under the belief that there's a possibility that he could have been running for his life, because why else would he, be in one sock and be in one sock, no shoes? There has to be a reason for that. So, and when you're leaving it out the report like that, it just draws a concern. So things like that. So when it comes to the full body report, I just noticed that there's just parts of the body that wasn't there, and it didn't make sense for it not to be when it's a full head to toe examination, and it's supposed to be a full head to toe examination with reports in regards to the conditions of those body parts, as well as describing any type of injuries with their measurements as well. So again, I am concerned about that. Further down here, it has the internal examination should also include the assessment of like bullet trajectory and things like that. And so we didn't get that neither. And someone would say, well, that's because there wasn't any, that's because there wasn't any bullet holes. Well, that's hard to say, especially when you have, I think it was, wow, they call it punctate wounds in the report. But if you look up punctate wounds are a lot, there's punctured wounds, and the thing about this is when you have a single punctate wound or a single circular wound, and you have not given any type of feedback on what you even potentially believe it could have came from or what could have caused it, because I did read further that those are things that you do. You do give an observation, your professional opinion, where you believe those things came from. And there was punctate wounds where it was like two adjacent. It was, I don't know if you guys can see my hand, where it describes two punctured wounds adjacent to each other. And although it didn't say taser, that's where my head went with that when I seen that into the reading. I also noticed that there had been another one, and they did say they described it as being an older one, but it was in his back. But there was over what? I think it was over it mentioned over 12 puntate wounds. So yeah, that's concerning when you mention all of these puntate wounds, and then there was like, man, how many? Probably, I think it was over 9 or so times that laceration was mentioned in the document as well. And when you think of this, and when you actually go back, you guys have an image of the car now. So when you go back and look at that car and you think about laceration being mentioned, I don't care if it was mentioned 5 times. How do you get, 5 separate in separate places on his body lacerations? But it was more than 5. It was way more than 5. And then how do you get? And we're talking about just, it's supposed to be just a one-time impact. How do you get several different punching wounds over his body? I think it was like over 10. So how does that happen if it's just one impact? And you guys, again, like I shared with you, you have a picture of the car. And so again, I'm understanding this more now, this comment area. Hi Shady, hi Patricia. So now I can actually look over there. So if you guys comment, or if you guys, are able to answer the questions that I'm having, then please go ahead and, give me an answer to it, because I am hungry for knowledge. I'm hungry for an answer in regards to all of this. But I can't put that together, especially when I don't see, glass everywhere. Like if you notice in the, we're looking at the car, there's not glass everywhere. If you see glass everywhere, then I can see, okay, well, yeah, I can see where, maybe chips of glass or whatever have maybe, dug into the body or whatever, but that's not the case according to this image. And so it does draw concerns. Let's see here. Now, the manner of death is, definitely a big concern as well. It says on here, the death investigator will submit report detailing the findings of the scene investigation, evidence review, and medical records review. The forensic pathologist will review the death investigator's report and case file to finalize his autopsy report and certify the cause and manner of death. This was not done. This was not even done on the death certificate. We have a death certificate that basically has the name, birth date, the date of birth, and that was it. That's not a birth certificate. It's just a piece of paper. If you're doing according to this document, and let's see, who's this document by? Let's look at this and see. This is an advance in forensics analysis report. It's by a dean. Actually, it's by 2 deans. Oh, it's a medical examiner's report by 2 deans. Reviewing and comprehending autopsy reports. So, but needless to say, with all the degrees, and you got to keep in mind, I don't have these degrees. I don't have degrees to go through and dissect autopsy reports or to write autopsy reports. But you would think that the individuals who do have the degrees to do so, they would do so correctly. That you would, present a thorough autopsy report to be reviewed, not only for, the investigating team, but for the family as well. And this is not what we're seeing here. As a matter of fact, For my request of an autopsy report, I received, and I'm just gonna, hold this up so you can see. This is what I received, and I know there's quite a bit of areas in here that is missing because it says I should have had the opinion of the forensic pathologist. I should have had the circumstances of death, identification of the decedent, authority to conduct the autopsy. Let's see, description of the clothing, descriptions in clothing, evidence of medical intervention, gross autopsy findings. Let's see. There should have been, let me look over here. Where is it? I know it says that I should have had, okay, toxicology, opinion, circumstances of death, identification of the Senate General, okay, evidence, external, okay, microscopic examination. There's another place that said in order for it to have been understanding the value of an autopsy report and the information accompanying it, such as photographs, not a one. You're not going to see one photograph in here. Not one. Not one photograph. And you have to excuse I've been all through this thing. But you're not going to see not one photograph in here. And I know we have photographs for autopsy reports. When we requested them for my dad, God rest his soul, we got photographs and images and everything, and it even watches everything. We even got from when his body was over an overpath. They even gave us an image showing where his body was on the overpath and it laid up and rested up under the overpath. So yeah, there was absolutely not one image in here. Body diagrams, as you've seen, we didn't get that either. Professional legal investigations, we didn't get any of the investigation stuff, none of that. So this is not a full autopsy report. And someone may say, oh, you didn't request a full autopsy report. Well, just so happened, I have an audio of it. So we will be listening to an audio of it, as well as in regards to my follow-up in regards to the this doctored up paperwork. I refuse to call this an autopsy report. It's not an autopsy report, and it is unfortunately a disrespect to true pathologists and forensic professionals. So I'm not going to call this a autopsy report. It makes other pathologists and forensics professionals' work look bad. So no, we will not do that to them. I will not disrespect them like that. Other concerns of mine with this wonderful doctored up document. Christy, why do you keep saying that? You keep on saying doctored up document. Okay, well, let's address why I keep saying that. I don't know if you guys are able to, I don't know if you're able to see this through here. Yeah, you probably won't be able to. Well, maybe so. I don't know. But if you look here, okay, let me see, am I on the right side of the paper? Okay, if you look here, I don't know if you can see through there, right along in this lower part here, there's a line going across there on the second page. If you look through here and you look at this here, you'll see that the footer is not in line. Anybody who's taken English classes, when you do a footer, your footers are all your footers are in line all the way through the whole entire document. So that means that a page or whatever was included or added to this document versus it being a part of the original document. Additional to that, and then I don't even know what's all this. Maybe that's just the way they do things, but all of this stuff looks, if you look at it, it looks like all just stamps. So maybe that's just how they do, how they do their signing or whatever off on paperwork, is that they just stamp it. So which means that anybody can stamp you know, a sheet of paper and say that it's from the Arkansas State Crime Laboratory. The other thing is, it's not uniform. We're going to start with the uniform in regards to his title. If you look on his title, on every page is Manning Donald Ray Jr. is how his name is on every page. Uh-oh. Can you guys see that? I'm sorry, I'm moving so fast. It's Manning Donald Ray Jr. That's how it is on all of the pages. All of the pages. Except when we get here, let me see if I can show you that. When we get to the toxicology report, we have Donald Manning. Let's see. We have Donald Manning in the toxicology report. Not only do we have it with Donald Manning in the toxicology report, if you look at the font, through this document, if you look at the font, all of a sudden, the wonderful font changes. Let's see if we can get some side by side there. So if you look at the font at the top, there's your font there. And then if you start going to the toxicology report, totally different font than any font in the whole darn document. It's completely different. So, of course, that's concerning. I wrote a lot of documents. I wrote a lot of papers in school. So when it comes to stuff like that stands out like a sore thumb. So there's just a lot of things that was not uniform with the document. And I noticed that with the document that with the document, it seems to highlight more so. It's like somebody wonderful went and listened to the audios in which I had shared with everyone and was able to pick up the conversation that Sheriff Roberts has shared with us in regards to what was in the autopsy report. And they went and they made sure that those things were stated in the autopsy report, even by way of incorrect fonts. Just made sure, just threw it in there any kind of way. And it's when you read it, it just kind of just jumps out at you. But the things that are necessary and that are much needed to be in the autopsy report were not included. Because see, what you don't understand is that my brother was not in question. His behavior or his position on that night was not in question. Whether he did drugs, whether he was drunk as a skunk, he was on feet. He was pedestrian. So whatever was going on with him was not in question. If he wasn't out there and he wasn't harming anybody and he wasn't wronging anybody, he was just walking. So that's what you failed to realize. And his actions as a person, whatever he consumed in his body, that doesn't hurt us as a family. We're not ashamed of that. Because see, and that's the thing, you guys. We are responsible for ourselves. We can't go to heaven or hell for our family members or for our loved ones. And so what our loved ones choose to do with their wonderful bodies, that's their choice. We can want them to do differently. We can pray for them to do differently, but we are not responsible and we are not held accountable for what they do to themselves or what they do with their wonderful body. And so there is no reason for any of you guys to ever feel ashamed or embarrassed of your loved ones, because your loved ones are unique. And they're going to think the way they want to think, and they're going to think how they choose to think, because that's how God made us. And so when someone comes to you and they tell you negative things about your loved one, then it is what it is. That's my loved one. I'm still loving them and I'm still praying for them, but you know, their choices in their life are their choices in their life. And I'm not judging them, because I don't know what caused them or encouraged them to do what they do in their life. So don't let somebody make you feel bad about what your family or your loved one or someone outside of you do. You can only do you. You are only responsible for you, because you can only take you to heaven or to hell. In regards to anybody else, all you can do is pray that they get themselves together. But if they don't, that's not on you, and you don't look bad and you don't feel bad because of it. So in regards to this wonderful autopsy report where you went all out your way to, to say, oh, he did meth. I don't even know what meth is. And if he did some meth, then that's his meth and that was his mess. But his meth and his mess did not cause him to get killed that night. He didn't OD. So it meant very little. It meant very little to me. I don't know how it meant to my mom, but it meant very little to me. But what you did leave out, that means a lot to me, because it's keeping me from being able to know exactly what happened that night with him. So if you guys could kindly go back and give us a correct autopsy report, we would greatly appreciate it, because we still do have questions that we would like to have answered. We're going to listen to 2 recordings in regards to the autopsy. Then I'm going to let you guys go. We actually were supposed to go, I'm actually supposed to be doing 2 recordings, but today I was working on this project and I've been trying to get it finished. And I'm having such a horrible time, because I am so not a camera person, and this requires, it requires somebody with some camera intelligence. So what I'm going to do is I'm not going to come back with a second video today, but what I am going to do is I'm going to put up what I have in regards to these images, and I'm going to ask you guys to please share your feedback in regards to the images, because I do want to know what exactly do you see in the images. And I do want to have you to also, I do want to share with you to also make sure that when you're looking at the images, you have to look in the dark. They come out, they stand out more so in the dark than they do in the light. Let's go ahead and listen to the recording. The first recording, I don't want to even say her name, because I feel like she may be a newcomer. I feel like she may be, a baby. And I'm not one of those people, I'm not trying to, hurt the reputation of, anyone for that matter. All I want to do is share what the truth is, and hope to get someone to want to get involved and actually, properly take care of what we're going through, as a people, in trying to maneuver through this system that we're having to, dealing with on a day-to-day basis, or deal with during unexpected situations, because we don't deal with the system on a day-to-day basis, but we do have to deal with them when the time presents itself. But I was listening to this baby, and I felt so bad for this person, because I felt like, you know what, you probably just thrown in there. You don't have a clue of what you're doing. You don't have a clue of who who you're trying to, lie for or cover up for. You're just trying to be a team player. And so I don't believe her name was mentioned. I don't believe her name was mentioned at the beginning of this. I did not go back and listen to these again, because feeling overwhelmed. And so just not wanting to put myself through it all over again. I hope her name isn't mentioned. If her name isn't mentioned, then I won't mention it. If her name is mentioned, then I'm going to ask you guys to just pray for this young lady, because by the sound of her voice, she sounds so young. And I just don't believe that she really is aware of what she's doing and who, you know, who she's, whose behalf she's acting on. Um, but I do hope that any authorities that, you know, if you're out there listening and you do, you know, hear the voice and you do recognize the voice, that you do, you know, at least reach out to her and encourage her to, you know, to do the things that she should be doing, and not, you know, potentially trying to cover up or throw answers out there that she really don't have the correct answers to. I will say this to anyone. I went, for an example, I went to the doctor with my mom, and my mom was asking this young lady questions. You know, she was like, well, does this have steroid in it? Does this, do this? Because if you take certain medications and you get a steroid injection or whatever, it messes with your eyesight. I learned that from dealing with, you know, taking my mom back and forth to the doctor. And so my mom is very apprehensive when it comes to that. You know, she doesn't want to be dealing with a steroid on the medications that she's taking, because she don't want her eyesight to be to become a challenge for her. And so, but I'm listening to this young lady whom they just threw in the water. People do that to you. People would throw you in there, and the sharks, you know, they don't care. Just say anything. BS your way through it, you know. When you get in situations like that, when people put you in compromising situations like that, that they know you're not even ready for, and you know you're not even ready for, but you know that these are some serious situations. These are some important situations, because they're affecting people's lives, whether it's medical, whether it's legal, and you don't know what to say and you don't know how to say it. When that person before you asks you a question you don't know the answer to, there is nothing bigger than a person who can say, you know what, that's a great question. Let me get somebody to answer that for you. Or let me go and find out an answer for you. That is huge, huge. One, it respectfully, you know, it compliments the person that asks you the question, first of all, because it says to them, you know what, you're smart. You're awesome. You asked me a question I didn't even know, and this is my field. This is where I'm working in. You know, but then you also in return share with them exactly how much you care about them, because you cared enough to actually say, you know what, wow, that's great. You know what, let me get somebody to know the answer to that question. Let me get somebody to answer that question for you. So you cared enough to them to be honest with them and to actually go and seek out the proper answer, the correct answer for them. And then you also show the respect you have for yourself to be able to say, you know what, I don't know the answer, but hey, let me educate myself. There is nothing wrong with educating yourself. Educate yourself, educate yourself. I tell people all the time when I go, I don't care if I'm going to the grocery store and I need to find something on aisle 16 that I don't even know that's over on aisle 16. Will you please educate me where the loaf of bread is? Will you please educate me where I can find a dozen of eggs? Educate me. And when they do it, I share with them, thank you. When you talk to people like that, that makes people don't have a challenge with communicating with you. They don't have a challenge with asking, you know, answering you or helping you at all, or supporting you in trying to find the answer, just because of the way you communicate. And communicating with people is so important. But anyway, let's get back on the right track. Okay, so we're going to go back to our first recording. And for those of you who just joined, this is a recording from one of the ladies. We're going to listen to two recordings. This is a recording for one of the ladies from the State of Arkansas Crime Lab. Mind you now, before we go there, I have went through all these little hurdles, wonderful hurdles, trying to get a copy of this doctored up document. And it did not come from the source that it was originally supposed to come from. So this is what we're going to, I believe this is what we talk about here. And then we talk about some of my concerns regarding this document as well, because one of the bigger concerns was, okay, well, it didn't come from the source, and this is so doctored up, and it's so, out of, so out of uniform or whatever, that this is concerning. Like, okay, So, but let's go ahead. I'm getting a little long-winded here. Sorry. Hi, Joy, please. This is Joy. Hi, Joy. My name is Christine. I received a copy of my brother's autopsy report, and it looks like they're trying to email me two different reports, but the one that had number 157-145-283-8117 on it, it shows up as the same report for the 2018-006081. So both documents, both sets of documents were the same. And what was his name? Donald Raymond Jr. Manning, M-A-N-N. M-A-N-N-I-N-G. Can you guys hear this? Can somebody give me a yay or nay? No, Donald Ray, R-A-Y. This was this year case. That's what it is. Yeah. Okay. And so they emailed you twice? Well, they emailed me one time, but it shows they was trying to do two different documents, but then only both documents show the same thing. So it looks like the pathology reports, there's not here. Did you request autopsy and tox report? Yeah. Okay. It's supposed to be the full report. Okay, I see your request for autopsy. I'm not seeing it. Like you said, the full autopsy report's not there? No, ma'am. Okay. So can you tell me, because I'm not the one that sent this, but I'm seeing this, like, can you tell me what you're seeing when you open up each document? As I shared with you, it's the same, but I'm seeing the medical examiner's division. Okay. You want me to, I'm sorry, you want me to, okay, and then it says conclusions. And then it goes into the cause of death, manner of death, and then it shows the signatures on it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it should be like multiple pages. Is it multiple pages when you pull it up? Yes. Okay. And how many pages? It's only showing like about 9 pages here. Okay, that's correct. So that's the full autopsy report, and that's the first one. Yes. Correct. Mm-hmm. And what's the second one? So it's the same. No, it's the same document. Okay. Well, that is the full report. That's all of my stuff, and it's like within the report, it should have all the talk findings and stuff within that report. Like on what page is this? Page 7.
That's all the toxicology findings for you.
And the pathology report?
That's like, it's all in there. It should all be in there. It has the doctor's opinion and all that stuff in there for you. It's got all the systems.
The levels and stuff, and none of those are in here. It doesn't even discuss his shirt. Like it goes into details about the pants, but it doesn't go into details about the shirt. It doesn't actually even mention the shirt. It's like, I don't know if this is, I don't know.
Well, like I know it has the external description. That's what you're talking about.
Well,
And it's not mentioning the shirt.
Yeah, it's not mentioning the shirt. Let me put this back in order, and then I'll share with you what I'm looking at here.
Okay, you're like, give me a specific section, because I'm looking at the report and I see like external description, long paragraph, evidence of medical attention, evidence of old injuries, evidence of recent injuries, return. Like it just goes down and down to all the, and then goes into the body systems and stuff like that.
Okay, so here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm just trying to put it back in order. 7, 9. Okay. So, like on page 2, it talks about, his stock. It talks about the,
Okay, it should say the upper body was clad in a black t-shirt. Is that?
No.
It does.
Wait, let me see something. Yes, ma'am, it does say it was clad in a black t-shirt, but then it doesn't, like all of the, like for example, with the way they describe the pants, with all the torns and rips and stuff.
Right.
When they describe the shirt, that's all you have is this up here with the upper body with the clad t-shirt.
Yeah.
But then
which means like the t-shirt was probably in fine condition. Like if it would have had rips and stuff, they would have described it. So the t-shirt was probably pretty intact.
But if you go over to page 2, it talks about all the lacerations in the posterior, the back side of him. So that means that his t-shirt should have been ripped and everything as well.
Okay, so the black t-shirt was not fine.
And it talks about.
Okay, so when it's talking about the posterior, it's talking about his lower region, not the upper. So not his back. So they're talking about his right thigh had lacerations and all that stuff. And then the forearm, so like his shirt was short sleeve.
And then the 12 punctate wounds.
Yeah. So it wasn't on his upper torso. That would be torso back is how we would describe that. Posterior is the lower back, like your lower bottom legs area.
So all of this stuff is what happened to you're saying that it happened to his legs?
Yes. It looks so they got superficial injuries on thighs, lower extremities, all that. So that's where the lacerations were.
But see, then down here, it says that the legs were fine.
On which page?
Yeah.
So there was like he had some raised elbows, but that didn't affect his shirt.
Let's see where I noticed that.
And it looks like he got a little bit like he had a superficial injury on his back, but that doesn't, like, it could, the shirt could have not been affected by it. Because it says abrasion, that's like a bruise type thing, that's where he had an injury on his back.
I'm trying to scan through this really quickly. I'm sorry.
It's okay. I mean, everything that our examiner, this is just where our examiner found, so.
Let me see if I can pull that. And so this other, and you're saying that this other case number that's showing on here, the 1579452838117.
Mm-hmm.
What did you say about it? I'm sorry.
I don't know, is it the same report? Is it the exact same thing, or is it?
Yes, it was the exact same thing. That they were downloaded as, they were sent to me as two separate reports.
And so that sounds like, not our case number, but it sounds more like a agency case number, so, maybe with the investigation findings or stuff like this. I know the medical examiners, that's our report, that's the autopsy report. I'm not sure what the other report is. I assure you that's the one that you're looking at, that's the full report, that's everything that our medical examiner found.
Your pathology report wouldn't show, wouldn't show the levels for the toxicology.
Okay, so if you look on page 7,
Mm-hmm.
it has the laboratory results and it has toxicology, and it shows what was not in his system and in his system.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you go general toxicology, it shows below it, and I'll show you the level. So if you see, it shows that there's mass in the system, so it's positive for it, and then below it, general toxicology, it'll have it at 0.2.0 ml. And then on the side that shows you like what's the considered the lethal amount is.
And the lethal amount is the 0.03, and the non-lethal is the.
And then the one to the left of that, that's what was in his list. So that was all the toxicology that were in on it. And if you look on page 8, it has all the findings of like what they found on him. So
You said on page 8.
8. Mm-hmm.
Now, the interesting thing is that, like, it doesn't even tell what the possibility of the punctate wounds and everything,
Mm-hmm.
the adjacent punctate wounds or anything. It doesn't. I thought that pathology report would be a little bit more detailed than that.
Mm-hmm. Like it's all medical terms, so they put on it. And they're probably categorized and all sorts of things like that.
Hmm.
So the contact hemorrhage is cerebral white. So it's cerebral white. Is that what you're looking at, the contact hemorrhages?
Well, there's a couple. There's a couple of them. There's the. Let's see here. I'll go back to the first page. There's a single punctate abrasion.
Okay.
There's that one, and that's pretty much all it says in regards to it. And then we have the 2 punctate abrasions were also present on the mid-lateral back buttocks.
Yeah.
And then we come across.
So abrasions are kind of like bruises. So that's what that word means.
But the
And,
plantate
like,
wounds
they're-
are like punctured, like holes
Yeah,
or
they're
something.
punctured or bruises, yeah, so they're like punctured bruises, so it looks like he got like punctured, and the bruising around it, that's what it means.
Okay, but where would those come from a car accident?
Let's see.
And they're scattered punctate, in different,
Yeah, let me,
and that's a whole lot of lacerations.
yeah, I mean, car accidents, you can get a lot of injuries. Let me see, so. It was, okay, so, in any car accident, there's chances for your body to get beat up really, really bad. So, at like any level of extremity, so like, could have been, you know.
I know that there would be some bruises, but with just a straight hit,
Mm-hmm.
and to have so many
Core.
lacerations like that.
Mm-hmm. Well, a lot of it's glass, that could have been
No, the windshield was there. It was intact.
shards, stuff like this.
No,
So like, it's a lot of blunt force stuff.
now I can understand if there was glass, like little glass where, glass popped out or whatever, but from what we were told, the windshield was still intact. There was no glass on the street, no nothing.
Okay, so he was hit by someone, though, right?
Mm-hmm. He was a pedestrian.
So just because the windshield, like he probably hit the windshield, and that's gonna, even though the windshield is still on the car, that doesn't mean it wasn't cracked, broken, little shattered. Like, cause it could still be intact on the car.
But lacerations up and down, you got lacerations up and down the back, the arm.
Yeah, he was hit from behind.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it still doesn't explain where the plantate wounds come from.
So I'm not quite sure. All I know is that all the findings, I can see if you can speak with the pathologist on record. And maybe they can describe it a little bit to you, how all these injuries happened.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, he was hit from behind by the car. So that could cause a lot of injuries.
Okay, if he's available.
Let me get your name, because they're all down. What was your name again?
59.
Okay. So that's going to be Dr. Okay, so they're all downstairs doing autopsies. I'm going to have to leave this as a message for him, and I'll just say that you have some questions about the autopsy report, and he will get back to you as soon as he can, okay?
Okay, you said this is who?
It'll be Dr. Tuck.
Okay.
And I'm sorry I couldn't help you. Like, I'm just reading from the report as you are and trying to help you as best as I can. But he will probably be able to help you better.
Okay, thank you. And you said that the full autopsy report was these 9 pages?
Yeah, that's the full report.
Okay, thank you.
And according to my system, I'm looking at it because like we print it directly from our system and mail them to you. So, or email them to you. And that's all the pages I have is 9.
Okay. All right.
But I will see if I can get Dr. to call you, and as soon as he gets back, that's okay.
Yeah, is it possible for you to email me another copy? Because I accidentally deleted the copy on the computer. printed mine out?
I don't know if I can, because, usually we'll deal with, Ms. Marilyn Reed, she's been really fun, but she's out today. So, if I can't, I'm sure she can, when she gets back tomorrow.
Okay,
I can send it to you
okay,
again, okay?
all right, thank you.
No problem.
Hello?
Hi, may I speak to Christy Manning?
This is Sharon.
Hi, Ms. Manning, this is Dana with First Electric.
Oh, okay. I was like, why is there still recording on there? Okay, so my concerns in regards to this was, as you heard, they only mentioned I want to go further into details in regards to the autopsy report, but I think I have to declare you guys as family or something like that to sit down and discuss this with you guys, or share it for page. I'm not for sure, but I think that I have to declare you guys as family or something. So, and just to be on the safe side, I'm going to say that in order for you guys to be a part of this, that you guys are my Facebook family. So we are all family. But at this point, my biggest concern with this was, as she mentioned, it only spoke of like a clad black t-shirt or shirt or whatever. But then, as you heard with she and I conversation, it talks about all of these lacerations that are on the upper part of his body, on his forearm and stuff. But when it came to the shirt, it just mentioned the shirt. It didn't talk about how holy the shirt was or anything. We have just in one area 12 punte wounds. Let's see here. The left upper arm, elbow, and proximal forearm were approximately 12 punte and linear abrasions. So, but none of this managed to make it to the shirt. None of the holes, I mean, we didn't hear anything in regards to the clothing or anything in regards to this description. That just kind of, that concerns me, because I would like to know where all these punte wounds come from, where did all these lacerations come from. And as as she shared, yes, it was only the impact. As I shared again, you guys have the car. First it was with the glass and everything, but then although there wasn't any glass, then she backed up and was like, okay, well, having a car accident can create a lot of damage, damages, bruises or whatever. But it was supposed to have been just a single impact. With a single impact, how are you getting so many lacerations and on the wrong side of the body? As I remind you, I know I keep saying it. Let me see. I think I said it wrong the first time when I mentioned it, but let's just walk it down this way to put it in simpler form. We're driving, right? So she's driving this direction. Her stern wheel is on her left side. The pedestrian is on her left side, which means that his right side is closest to her, closest to the stern wheel, but majority of his bruises and his broken arm and everything is on his left side. Everything is majority of the damages, everything is on his left side. And I still have not, right today, been able to figure that out. So if you guys have a hypothesis for that, an educated guess or whatever, please do share that with us, share that with me. I would love to know. But it was just quite a bit of things in here that just don't add up at all to me. And when you read the autopsy report, it's more negative than giving out the information in which happened. As a matter of fact, let's see. Although she shared when she mentioned the toxicology report part of it, she shared that the levels were, I guess, let's see, I don't know anything about drugs, I'm sorry. It says, I guess 0.20 is supposed to be the acceptable level. No. 0.03 is, I guess, supposed to be when it's too much in your system. No, zero. I don't know. Anyway, it was below the level. Okay, it was below the level. But so 0.20 must be what is considered to be too much, and he had a 0.03. But at any rate, when I say that, you know, it was so much, it was more negative than anything in regards to just, you know, telling the facts in regards to what actually happened with him and examining him for the forensics to get the truth about what happened to him. This wonderful person, and I can only wonder who, I mean, I can just about probably put my finger on who wrote this part, but I'm just going to read briefly this last part of the paragraph. It says, images of the involved vehicle and from the scene were reviewed immediately after the autopsy. Based on the autopsy findings and these images, it is apparent that Mr. Manning was struck from behind while walking southbound next to the side of the road. As a result of the initial impact, his pelvis was fractured and he sustained his head injuries. There was no evidence that he was injured in any other manner. As you guys heard clearly, we just talked about lacerations in various parts of his body and punctate wounds in various parts of his body, but there was no, so this is like parts of, you know, what I'm saying when it doesn't, this thing doesn't line up. It doesn't make sense. You're contradicting yourselves in various areas of this document. There was no evidence that he was injured in any other manner, and the injuries indicate he was struck only once. Okay, and why is that so important? Why would you stick that in there? Because I mean, you would only think that if it's an accident, you know, if that was the incident, that's what you're thinking, a hit and run. You only think he's going to be hit once, right? But you got to remember, Mr. Curtis Butterfield, he also felt like he had been hit more than once. And so, but here it again, where, you know, Sheriff Roberts made it a point to share with us, no, he was only hit once, you know, contrary to what Mr. Butterfield was saying. But Mr. Butterfield was the one who had actually I guess, the medical degree. And Mr. Sheriff Roberts was actually, you know, the more law enforcement side of it. But, you know, anyway, so it made it a point to definitely say that he was only struck only once. The severity of his injuries was such that he would have lost consciousness immediately. This right here was so different than what was read. And that's, oh, John Shepard. That's what I was going to share with you too, is that during the sit down in the meeting, because at first when we was originally told about this situation, this incident, we was under the impression, because they told Sheriff Roberts to share with us that he died on impact, is what he shared with us. But we had asked the question, and you, Mr. Shepard, you went through the autopsy document, reading out loud, you know, quickly trying to find the answer to our question, and you read over information that educated us in learning that he did not die on impact. Because that took my family for a loop, to know that, it definitely took me for a loop, to know that he lay there face down on that cold ground, suffering without assistance. However, this wonderful document here, it doesn't even have that in there. So again, this doesn't add up. But we're going to go ahead. It says there was no evidence that he was injured in any other manner. and the injuries indicate he was struck only once. The severity of his injuries was such that he would have lost consciousness immediately, with death occurring within minutes. The injuries he sustained were not survivable under any circumstances. Toxicology testing did not reveal any alcohol in blood. Methane was present in blood at the level in a low toxic range. The presence of the potent central nervous system, the presence of this potent central nervous system stimulant likely explains his decision to walk to town early in the morning. Why that was significant, I have no idea. Maybe somebody else can shed some light and educate me on the thoroughness of an autopsy report. I have not had a lot of close counters with autopsy reports, but I do know that there are some things missing here. I do know that in regards to some of the things that we do know in regards to the incident, that this autopsy report doesn't answer those questions. And so, again, I would have to say this is not an autopsy report. And it's definitely not a full autopsy report. And it's not even a thorough crime lab forensics report. So, to my family, I know you're asking, or I know you've been asking. Yes, I do have this. And yes, I will be giving you guys copies. I've already made copies. But I am going to share with you guys as well that this is how I feel about this document. I don't think it's worth your time and your energy and your effort. You're definitely more than welcome to read over it, go through it. As you are learning more and more through, I know my videos and the audios in which I'm sharing, that a lot of the stuff that we was told was absolutely far from the truth. And we just have to keep praying. Your next audio is coming from Miss Marilyn, and you guys been introduced to Miss Marilyn before. Miss Marilyn was the wonderful voice from the Arkansas State Crime Lab. She was the person whom my authorization for an autopsy report went to, and unfortunately, Miss Marilyn gave me so many excuses of why she did not want to release an autopsy report to me, and she based it on, the prosecuting attorney, Jeff Rogers. But then even after we got past him and realized that it wasn't him that needed to release it, she still was, more concerned with how Mr. Rogers felt and talking to Mr. Rogers, regardless of even what she was told in regards to he wasn't the last person to have his hands on that case. But anyway, Miss Marilyn found out, because at the time that I spoke to the first young lady, her office was not aware that I had a autopsy report. This is what happens when you don't do what you're authorized to do. When you're in a position of, leadership, or when you're in a position where you get important papers as such as authorization in order for you to move, and we go and we do what we're supposed to do, and you don't, and then somebody else has to come over your head and do what you was in a position to do, then you're left to look really small in those situations, because you do that to yourself, especially when you go and you put yourself, in line or in connection with the wrong people, and those wrong people take away your authority and take away your leadership position in doing what you're supposed to do. I don't know if that even, if I even said that correctly, but when you go and you sign up to do a certain job, you should do that certain job, and you should not allow others to manipulate you or intimidate you or control you or tie your hands behind your back, due to their inappropriate or their wrongdoings, and make your position look like it is pretty much worthless. Miss Marilyn took me through the ringer in regards to the autopsy report, and I did everything I needed to, everything that was requested of me to get an autopsy report from her. And so, although she took me through the ringer in regards to this autopsy report, when she learned that I guess this young lady, of course, went and communicated to her that I had one, this is what that conversation was like afterwards. And she wasn't rude. She was hungry. She was hungry for information.
So, it looks like you've been taken care of, am I correct?
I don't know, to be honest with you. I did receive some paperwork that portrays an autopsy report, but there's a lot of inconsistencies in it. And there's a lot of, I've noticed that the pathology report is not.
I'm sorry, let me just start out by saying, so she calls me up, and the first thing comes out of her mouth is, so you look like you've been taken care of. Mind you now, I've left message after message for this wonderful lady. I've called her several times, and obviously she has caller ID because she wouldn't take my phone calls. I've emailed her. She wasn't responding to my emails. But now the wind has taken to her a breath of air, sharing with her that she has what you've been trying to hold on to. So now she picks up the phone and she calls me. I think that is so bold.
So, it looks like you've been taken care of, am I correct?
I don't know, to be honest with you. I did receive some paperwork that portrays an autopsy report, but there's a lot of inconsistencies in it. And there's a lot of, I've noticed that the pathology report is not detailed at all. So I don't know. I have major concerns in whether or not it's the actual autopsy report.
Who did you receive it from?
Does that matter?
Well, it does. It matters whether you received it from our office. If you received it from our office, it would be the official report.
No, I have not received it from your office.
Who did you receive it from?
I'm not willing to share that, especially considering the fact that I put in a request for an autopsy report, and he's my loved one, he's my family member, and I can't even get an autopsy report that these people were able to.
Donald, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
I know my director sent me an email saying that he had put in a request for it to be released, that he had talked to Mr. McClary while I was gone.
Well, it has not been released from the Arkansas State Crime Lab to me.
I know, honey, believe me. I've been trying to get this report to you. I also have to I have to wait till I get permission to release, as I explained to you. I can't just, I wish I could. Believe me, it makes it difficult for me. But I have.
Did y'all hear that? Even after her boss, she said her boss gave her a release, but you still come back with this, your hands are tied. Who's tying your hands when your boss, your own boss, and gave you permission to release something and you still haven't? You're still giving me the same sob story. But you pick up the wonderful phone to call me and say, who released it? Who gave it to you? And then you expect me to answer that question? I'm not going to be loyal to you. I'm going to be loyal to the people who are just trying to support me. But her boss and signed off on a release, and you still won't release it.
Get permission to release, as I explained to you. I can't just.
He's my family member, and I can't even get an autopsy report that these people were able to.
Let me see if I can one. Donald, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
I mean, I know my director sent me an email saying that he had put in a request for it to be released, that he had talked to Mr. McClary or while I was gone.
Well, it has not been released from the Arkansas State Crime Lab to me.
I know, honey, believe me. I've been trying to get this report to you. I also have to take, I have to wait till I get permission to release, as I explained to you. I can't just, I mean, I wish I could. I mean, believe me, it makes it difficult for me. But I have to go through, but like I said, the director himself, said that he had talked to the person that gave permission for it to be released. So, and I see that, and then we have to get it approved to be able to release it. So I'm waiting on that. I'm trying to go into that now to see, but I can call our attorney. I'm just wondering if you got the full report, if you got a coroner's report or you got something else, because I don't show that anybody's received the report from us. So.
Well, I can confirm for you, I have not received a report from the Arkansas State Crime Lab since I put in a request.
I understand that, so I don't know the reports that you have. I don't know if it, and it looks like I can't. Someone else put in the offer. I mean, the director did. But let me call our attorney and see what I can do this morning. But I'm here. I'm back. Was working on it before I left. The director got that call, so it lies in one more person's hands. So let me check that, and hopefully I can get that to you. And where do you want me to email it, Christy?
To C Manning 2007 at gmail.com.
At Gmail?
Yes.
Okay, sweetie. Let me see what I can do here. And we'll hopefully get this taken care of, okay? I hate it. My hands are tied, but let me see what I can do, okay?
All right, thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Now, if you notice, she mentioned the coroner's report. So obviously they had the coroner's report too. But as I share with you, I don't have the coroner's report. The coroner's report is Butterfield's report. I did not get that. Like I said, I didn't get the pictures. I didn't get any of that stuff with this doctored up document. And eventually she did go ahead and send me a copy, and she sent me a copy identical to this copy here. But after going through the back and forth, she did send me this. So there you have it. We do not have an official autopsy report. We do not have crime scene pictures. We do not have any of those things. But I do have a couple of images for you guys, and as I shared earlier, I'm really horrible with photo stuff, and I really have been trying to get these images clear enough where you can see them. So I'm hoping that you guys are able to see them. Please leave me some feedback on what you believe you see. If you are correct, I will confirm for you that you are correct. I don't know if trying to hold them up here, you would actually, I'm telling you guys. Let's see. I'll hold them here, and this is not all of them. And yeah, really, I don't know if you guys are gonna know to be able to see it, but I am gonna. Brother, are you in here? Can you please? Oh yeah, can you please turn off this main light? Because I don't know. Now you're looking inside of this circle that's on here. Like I said, I'm looking at this, and I don't think you guys are going to be able to see these images, so I'm probably going to have to work with them more. Yeah, no. Yeah, I can, that doesn't even, let me see. Is that better? Can you hit that light in there, please? Yeah, I don't know if you guys can see that. Those are headlights down there, but then there's also something else down there, and then I don't know if you can tell what's there. So yeah, I don't know. I'm going to add these. Let me see now that he has the light off. Yeah, no, I cannot even. Like I said, it's going to be, it will be a challenge for you to see these. Let's try this one. It will be a challenge for you to see these unless you're in the dark. I don't know. I'm gonna upload them and give you guys a chance to see if you can actually see them for yourselves. And if not, then I am going to continue to work on. Brother, can I get light, please? I'm going to continue to work on getting them clear for you guys. But just know that they're coming. Brother, where did his little wonderful self go? Okay. So, but anyway, that concludes this video. Look for the images on my page in just a second. I will send them to you guys. And like I said, if you are aware of what you see, please please comment, message me, whatever, and I will confirm yay or nay. You guys have a good evening. This went way too long for me.